Chuck Todd is NBC's political director. Good morning to you, Chuck.
Good morning.
Let's start with this whole Sarah Palin, Ted Stevens situation. Right. If he were to resign from the Senate, how likely do you think it is that she would run for Senate?
Well, you know, I think she's got to sit here and make a decision. Does she want to be a player in 2012? Does she want to be a player in the National Republican Party?
And if she does?
And then run for the Senate seat. Come to Washington. Get some extra chops on your resume. Do this stuff. It is a way to maybe quiet some of the critics about her qualifications.
You know, there's an article in today's New York Times about a rift between Palin and McCain during the campaign.
Yes.
What do you know about that?
Well, there was definitely tension. The tension had to do as much with Governor Palin and the McCain staff. You got to remember, she had never had consultants with her campaign. She had sort of done it herself. Here she does. She got plucked from Alaska to be the running mate, and all of a sudden she was being handled by political consultants. She had a problem with that.
But to hear them tell it, and we're going to talk about this later on in the show, she went rogue on them.
That's right. Well, and you know what? They had not dealt with a candidate who hadn't dealt with advisors before either. This was a culture clash more than anything.
Before we get to the transition of power, back to the Senate for a second. 4 races still too close to be called. Recount in Minnesota for sure, possibly in Georgia as well?
Definitely a recount in Minnesota, so we won't know anything in Minnesota for a month. Georgia, the 50% mark for a runoff, the Saxby-Chambliss is sitting at about 49.9, so there might be a recount determine that. We'll see. Oregon looks like Democrats will pick that one up, and of course we have the Alaska drama.
Is it likely that the Democrats will reach that 60 point in the Senate that makes them filibuster-proof?
No, it looks like the Alaska race for sure almost locks out that possibility.
Okay, let's move on to transition of power in the executive office. President-elect, I keep calling him Senator, President-elect Obama has chosen a chief of staff. He asked Congressman Rahm Emanuel to take on the position. Emanuel says he's thinking about it. Is that a bit of a bump for this campaign? Everything has gone so smoothly.
It is, but you know, this was not news to the Obama campaign. They knew that Rahm Emanuel had a couple issues. Number one, he wants to be Speaker of the House someday. And if he leaves Congress, he's not going to be able to do that. Number two, his kids are in school in Chicago. His oldest kid is not even a teenager yet. He's got 3 children. Does he want to take them out of school in Chicago, bring them to D.C.? You know, it's a real family situation.
So why does Obama want him, and why is that chief of staff such an important position that presidents like even Clinton said he should have chosen that before his cabinet?
That's right. Well, Andrea Mitchell talked about the problems President Clinton had coming in and his transition. President Clinton chose a childhood friend to be his chief of staff, Mac McLarty. What did that mean? That chief of staff never knew how to tell the president no, never was sort of a behind-the-scenes guy. In Rahm Emanuel, Obama knows he's getting Douglas MacArthur or General Patton, a guy who is a field general who will keep all of keep everything running on time, the trains running on time, and will go after Congress.
And very quickly, Secretary of the Treasury, a very important role.
The first one.
What do you know about the names that are being floated?
Well, you know, Larry Summers and Tim Geithner seem to be the hot names that Andrea mentioned. You hear John Corzine's name out there, but it would be hard to imagine that you would have one former Goldman Sachs guy replaced by another former Goldman Sachs guy. Then there's this idea that's floating out there that Paul Volcker, the former Fed chair, could be a temporary sort of an elder statesman, help oversee it for about 6 months while they find another candidate.
And likely that he will keep Defense Secretary Gates in place at least for now?
That seems to be where they're headed because that's the easiest way to deal. Treasury is such a huge issue right now, you don't want to have to deal with 2 gigantic transitions in defense and Treasury.
Okay, and finally, what role will Oprah play in the administration?
We'll see. Maybe they'll make her White House press secretary, or maybe the person that gives away all the largesse. You know, she can announce all the cars or something like that. But we do know a press secretary, a familiar face to Today Show, folks, Robert Gibbs, is probably going to be the guy behind the podium that will become the familiar face of the administration.
Robert Gibbs. Okay, look for him. Chuck
right.
Todd, thank you very much.